back to Haven's Kitchen. Today we're making a fall veggie and halloumi sheet pan salad. We love this salad because it's super easy to make. You can have it warm, you can let it cool a little bit. You've got your fall vegetables that are roasted and tender. You've got halloumi, which adds just this like bright kind of saltiness. Obviously, our chimichurri adds all of the herby flavor that you need. We rip up some pita and it kind of toasts in the salad, so it gets kind of crispy and crunchy, almost like croutons, but not those like big hefty ones. Just really perfect, comes together great. This sheet pan salad uses halloumi, which if you're not familiar with it, is a cheese that originated in Cyprus. It's a goat cheese. It's like super salty, super briny, kind of squeaky. It fries up really nicely. It crisps up really nicely on the outside, but the inside stays kind of tender and moist. If this recipe sounds like something you'd like to make, be sure to subscribe. All right, let's get started. The main thing you're gonna need for the sheet pan salad is a sheet pan. One of the things that we like to tell people is to line your sheet pan with parchment paper. It does a few things. First off, it helps with cleanup because if you do it right, you can get all of your veggies on the parchment and you don't really even have to wash the pan. You just kind of give it a quick wipe and you're all cleaned up. For today's recipe, we're gonna be using an acorn squash. We're gonna cut this into wedges. We're gonna leave the skin on. It roasts up beautifully. We're gonna do half of a red cabbage. We're gonna cut that into wedges too. We're gonna use a red onion, which I don't know if you've seen what a red onion looks like when it's roasted, but it's like the most beautiful color, I think, in the world. We're gonna have our halloumi cheese, our pita, and obviously our herby chimichurri, which is gonna add all of the parsley and oregano and olive oil and capers that you're gonna need. One of the most important things when you're roasting vegetables or really roasting anything is to have a good hot oven. So right now my oven is preheating to 425. I want it to be all the way at 425 before I put anything in there. Now I'm gonna show you how to cut the cabbage into wedges. We're only using half of the cabbage, but sometimes cutting these like bigger vegetables can be a little scary. You're gonna choke up on your knife, cut off that bottom part, set it aside, and just follow the line of the cabbage using your bear claw, cut down, and we're gonna set this aside to use for another time. Now I have my half of a cabbage. I'm not gonna cut it when it's on the rolly side. I'm gonna lay it down flat, and I'm just gonna cut it in half down the middle, and then half down that middle again. You wanna have even cuts because the more evenly that the cabbage is cut, the more evenly it will roast. We're gonna throw this in our bowl, and now we're gonna cut our acorn squash. So when you're cutting a vegetable like a squash, you can see that there are natural lines in it that just make sense for where you should cut. So we're just gonna put it kind of head down, it's flat, and we're going to kind of rock the knife back and forth on one of those lines. Cut through. There you go. We're gonna scoop this out, lay it flat, and cut wedges. So very easy with just a regular tablespoon and a little bit of elbow grease just to cut out all those seeds in one fell swoop. Again, you're putting your flat side of the squash down and you're just gonna follow the natural lines. Using a bear claw so that your fingers aren't anywhere near the blade. And then you just have these really nice, even slices of squash. Now I'm going to cut my onion into wedges. First in half and then peel. And when you have a half of an onion, like everything else, you start kind of cutting it in half again and then in half again. So you get those. So we're going to take the squash and the cabbage and the onions, toss them with like a good glug of olive oil, a nice pinch of salt, get them nice and coated, put them on the sheet pan, and roast. So you can get this. Coated. Now we're going to toss the cabbage with, again, a little olive oil. We really want the olive oil to get in there. That'll just help it crisp up nicely and get really good caramelized, kind of toasty, roasted flavor. So now my onions are tossed with olive oil and salt too, and I'm just laying them on the sheet pan with the squash and the cabbage. And one thing that you really want to think about is giving everything its own space on the direct heat of the sheet pan. So to the extent that you can, try not to have things lying on top of each other, because if the air isn't circulating around, then they're not going to get caramelized, they're going to steam instead. You don't need everything to have like 5 feet of space around it, but you do want to try to give each vegetable its own little personal space. And if you can, try to get it so that, a flat side of the squash or the cabbage is touching the pan directly, not like up on its side like that. We've cut everything in sizes that they'll kind of cook evenly, right? Because we don't want some of the vegetables being super overcooked and tender and some of the vegetables being hardly cooked at all. So keep in mind sizes and cooking times when you're roasting things in one pan together. And now we're gonna just put her in the oven. Oven's nice and hot on 425, and in she goes. So our vegetables are roasting. We're gonna give them a nice head start in the hot oven, and we're gonna get our halloumi and our pita bread tossed with the herby chimichurri, which is gonna coat it in the herbs and the oil. We're gonna add the halloumi and the pita to the roasted vegetables and roast for another 15-20 minutes, and it'll all come out like crispy and golden and herby and really good. So to make the halloumi, we're basically just gonna cut it into planks like this. And then sort of stack them on top of each other. Cut them into bite-sized pieces, put them in the same bowl that we used to toss the vegetables. And then for the pita, we're basically just gonna tear it. So doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want sort of evenly sized pieces, again, because they will cook evenly if they're all around the same size. But I like the look of the sort of rusticy torn pita. If you want to do this gluten-free, leave out the pita. I personally like gluten a lot. If I could have a only gluten diet, I would have that. Okay, so we have our torn pita, our halloumi. We're gonna take our chimichurri. And you know, chimichurri was originally created in Uruguay and Argentina for going on top of grilled meats. What we've discovered is that it's actually great for tossing vegetables, again, tossing bread like croutons. It's great as a salad dressing. In this case, it coats the cheese and the pita with enough olive oil to get a good crisp, but also adds all of the seasoning, so you don't need to add any of the herbs or the seasoning to have a really nice flavorful salad. So we're about 20-25 minutes in, like halfway through, plus a little bit. And now we're just gonna add the pita and the halloumi to the pan, trying to spread it out, getting all of those herbs and all of that olive oil. It smells delicious. You know, oregano is a big ingredient in the chimichurri, and it really makes sense with the halloumi. There's something sort of, I don't know, the two Mediterranean flavors really go well together, and then combined with like the autumn roasted vegetables, it's just such a beautiful dish. We're gonna put this back in the oven, let it crisp up, and then we'll be done. We have, like, look at that, like crusty cheese and our crispy pita. The cabbage and the squash are like tender and broken down, and you have nice caramelization. You have like tender but a little crispy onions, all tossed with our chimichurri, so you've got the herbs and the spices, and it's just delicious. We're gonna plate this in a bowl, put more chimichurri on it, and you have this beautiful warm fall salad. So there you have it, our gorgeous halloumi and roasted vegetable fall salad. It's warm, it's comforting, the flavors are really beautiful. I mean, we've got crispy cheese and little bits of pita, tender onions and cabbage and acorn squash. Sheet pan, easy. Couldn't be happier. If you enjoyed this recipe, be sure to like and subscribe. For the full recipe and a textable shopping list, click the link below. Thank you so much for watching, and cook happy.